Samurai Sam has redeemed... Sam, I'm sick. Samurai Sam has redeemed Goog recaps the plot and would like for the underscore Goog to recap the plot of Final Fantasy VII, which is a wonderful video game that I have played like 6 times. I'm joking. It's funny. So once upon a time, there was a boy named Cloud. We open on a shot of a girl in an alley. She's got a fleur, and she's praying or something, and it's a big fancy... Oh, hi. Sunflower City says... Okay. Well, hold on. Sunny recently mentioned that they intended at one point to redeem 50,000 Goog bucks to play One Winged Angel. And now that Samurai Sam has has asked us to recap the plot of Final Fantasy VII, this is as good a time as any. So there's a lady in an alley and she's praying over a weird green shit. Did I mention that it's a techno-apocalypse town, basically? It's techno-dystopia. There's capitalism run amok, everything's bad. But, fortunately, there are terrorists. Wait. Well, fortunately, comma, there are terrorists is now the title of the episode. But fortunately, there are terrorists. We play as one of them. He has spiky yellow hair, his name is Cloud, he has an enormous sword. So these terrorists are on a train and they're breaking into a nuclear reactor, basically. And their plan is to blow it the fuck up. Like, we're not being subtle about this. It's like, this is bad and we need to stop it. So the terrorists break into the nuclear reactor, and long story short, they blow it up. But before they blow it up, we meet them. There's Cloud, he has spiky yellow hair and a sword and protagonist brain. And there's Barrett, he's a Japanese person's insulting stereotype of a black guy, basically. He also has a gun for an arm, which is cool. It's one of his defining character traits is that he has a gun for an arm, which is cool. He's also very cool. He's the boss, he's in charge. There's also Biggs and Wedge and Jesse, and we're doing the plot of Final Fantasy VII, not Final Fantasy VII Remake, and therefore you don't have to worry about them, they don't matter. In Final Fantasy VII Remake, they try to make you worry about them and imply that they matter, and it kind of works. But in Final Fantasy VII, you don't have to worry about them, they don't matter. We'll take another motorway because we're pretty good on roads. So Biggs, Wedge, Jesse, Cloud, and Barrett blow up the nuclear reactor, and it's all cool and fun or whatever. And there's a fight against a robot scorpion that goes pretty well. Cloud and Barrett are good at this, and Jesse, Biggs, and Wedge are also present for now. No spoilers or nothing, but you don't have to worry about these characters. They're not going to matter for a while. So we go back to the slums, and we're in this place called Midgar, and everybody lives in the slums, and the slums are so slummy that they just call them the slums. There's no like, hey, let's go home, or hey, let's go back to 7th Heaven. No, it's just, let's go back to the slums. So they go back to the slums, and Midgar is basically like a pizza. You're going to hear this metaphor a number of times. Midgar is basically like a pizza. It's divided into 8 slices, and unlike most pizzas, these slices are of roughly equal size. Underneath each slices are slums. Tifa, Cloud, Barrett, and the whole Avalanche gang, basically, live in the slums of Sector 7. So, Cloud and Barrett go back and argue about money. And then... I've already lost my intimate recollection of the plot, but listen, we need to hit the fast forward button at some point. I've spent 5 minutes on the first 5 hours of this game. Let's not even 5 hours. Come on, Goog. So the plan to blow up a nuclear reactor worked so damn well that we're gonna, shrug, do it again, I guess. So we're gonna do it again, except this time it goes bad because it's a video game and stories have to evolve at some point. Thank you, Sunflare Space, for redeeming 50,000 Goog bucks to play One Winged Angel. Please don't anybody do that again, although fuck if you want to do it. In the meantime, here are more lo-fi beats to chill and recap plots to. So Cloud and Barrett and Tifa. Did I mention that there's Tifa? Here's Tifa. So there's Tifa, and she's Cloud's, like, long-lost friend or whatever. Also... Cloud buys a flout on the way out of the flaming wreckage of the first nuclear reactor they blew up. We should mention this. On the way out of the flaming wreckage of the nuclear reactor, Cloud runs into a flower girl. And, Well, the player has agency, but this is a narrative telling of the plot, so we're going to say what I did. The Cloud buys a flower from the flower girl, isn't a tremendous dick to her, and then gives the flower to Tifa, because hashtag Cloti. Anyway, so Cloud and Tifa used to be childhood friends or whatever, and Tifa reminds Cloud of a promise he made to come save her whenever she's in trouble. And Cloud's all sad about stuff. Cloud gets sad about stuff a lot. But they go to the second nuclear reactor with intents to blow it up, but it turns out it was a trap. Because you see, President Shinra, who's the president of Shinra, the Shinra company is also named after the dudes who founded it and rule it as basically dynastic emperors of the city and by extension the world. It's cool, it's fun, it's a good game. Anyway, so we go to the second nuclear reactor to blow it up, and it turns out bad because President Shinra has an awesome kill robot, except the good guys kill the awesome kill robot, so it wasn't that awesome a kill robot in retrospect. However, in dying, the awesome kill robot does explode, and it turned out that this battle took place over basically just a void to nothing, and by nothing, I mean if you fall down the hole, you're gonna land on the roof of a church. Cloud, would you believe it, falls down a hole and lands on the roof of a church, whereupon he meets the flower girl, whose name, as it turns out, is Aerith, or, if you're playing in 1997 on a PlayStation with a very poorly translated video game, is Eris. We're gonna try to call her Aerith, but we're gonna be bad at that. Just full disclosure right at the front, we're probably gonna call her Eris at some point, and by some point, I mean dozens of points. So Cloud meets Aerith. Also, I'm sick, so even when I say Aerith, it sounds like Eris. Oh god. Anyway, so Cloud meets Eris, and they chat, and then in come the Turks. And the Turks are badass, asshole, killer mercenary dudes in suits. They're very cool, but also evil. The Turks are basically button men for the Shinra, it seems. Like, if Shinra has a problem, they call the Turks to solve it, and at the moment the problem is that Eris exists, or perhaps just exists in a way that isn't directly under the control of the Shinra. That seems to be the real problem here, not so much that she exists, but that she exists in a way that isn't controlled by the Shinra. Bad. So Sam used to call her an astrological sign. Understandable. I think one time I did a playthrough where I spoonerized that and called her Aries. Fortunately, I never did a playthrough where I called her Austin Aries because Austin Aries is a jerk. Where was I in the plot of Final Fantasy VII? Oh right, the roof of a church. Cloud lands on the roof of a church, whereupon he meets Eris. She's the flower girl. They send the Turks. The Turks are button men in suits. They're badass and evil and awesome and badass. Cloud and Reno yell at each other. Reno's one of the Turks. He's a redheaded awesome asshole guy in a suit. Very important that you remember to describe the fact that the Turks wear suits, because the Turks are awesome in part because they wear suits. So the Turks show up and they're chasing people, and you run and you throw barrels and you bonk them with barrels, and it's fun. And then you jump and you run and you go to Eris's house, which is nice, and you meet Eris's mom, who isn't really her mom, because it turns out that Eris is part of this weird race of aliens? Question mark? Not quite aliens? Maybe aliens? I don't remember if the game ever decides if the Cetra Ketra? I think officially it's Ketra, but listen, we use soft C's in this household. We're fans of the Boston Celtics in as much as we care about professional basketball. I guess we're fans of the Celtics. Are we fans of the Celtics? Yeah, okay. Anyway, we use soft C's in this household, so Eris is a member of the Cetra, who are aliens? Question mark? Ancient people. Let's go with ancient people. So Eris is a member of the Ancient People, who used to be in charge but then got fucked over by something called Genova, which sure sounds bad. And then they didn't rule the planet anymore, basically. TLDR stopped ruling planet, died off shortly thereafter, except for Eris's mom, and also Eris. Eris's mom died at a train station shortly after giving birth to Eris, who was adopted by Ifalna, the lady who found her at the train station. And if you're thinking to yourself, man, Ifalna sure is a weird fucking name, don't worry, you're not going to have to worry about her for much of the game. So Eris is a member of these ancient aliens, question mark. and it's really important that she be protected and not do anything stupid and risky. Cloud wants to go back to Sector 7 and reunite with his friends, but Aerith decides to do something stupid and risky and go with him. On the way, they stop and they play in a park for a while, and then they see Tifa in the back of a wagon being taken to a whorehouse. That's a literal recitation of text, basically. So Tifa in a wagon is taken to the back of a whorehouse, but the whorehouse doesn't let girls in. Full stop, reverse that. The whorehouse doesn't let dudes in. Did I say Tifa? I certainly didn't intend to. I did not intend to. I might have. Again, I'm sick. But they saw Tifa on a wagon being taken to a whorehouse. So the whorehouse, we're going to stop calling it that. So Don Corneo's mansion. It might be Corneo, actually. But again, it's 1997. We're 10 years old and playing this on a Sony PlayStation. Except for the part... Wait, I've called her Aerith like 1,000 times. Shit. God damn it. So Don Corneo's mansion will only allow people in if they are sexy lady types and not muscular dude with sword types. So Cloud and Aerith come up with the brilliant plan, mostly Aerith actually. Aerith comes up with the brilliant plan that we will disguise Cloud, a muscular dude with sword type, as a sexy lady type. Is there overlap between these two? Of course there is. Is this awkward to replay every single time you go through the video game? Of course it is. TLDR, they dress Cloud up like a sexy lady type, and again, because we're reciting the narrative of the way I played the video game, they do a very good job of it. And eventually, it turns out there's this gimmick where Don Corneo picks one of 3 chicks to boink, and then sends the other 2 off to be gang boinked by all of his minions. Don Corneo picks Cloud, the sexiest, ladiest type of them all, over Tifa and Aerith, which speaks to Don Corneo's particular tastes, I suppose. Tifa and Aerith kick the ever-loving shit out of Don Corneo's goons, and then Cloud threatens to cut off Don Corneo's dick. This, once again, is an absolute recitation of fact. Cloud threatens to cut off Don Corneo's dick, Tifa threatens to stomp his testicles into little squishy grape-type things, and Aerith threatens to give him a handjob, basically. Her threat is not exactly, great. Listen, as a 10-year-old child, I didn't understand that Cloud was threatening to cut off Don Corneo's dick, but now, with the benefit of hindsight, knowledge, and being alive for an additional 27 and a half years, yes, Cloud was threatening to cut off Don Corneo's dick. So Tifa, Cloud, and Aerith corner Don Corneo and get him to reveal that the Shinra's plan is to... The Shinra's plan... Listen, okay, the Shinra are the corporation that rules and controls the city of Midgar, right? Shinra's plan is to bomb the pillar that supports one of the sectors of Midgar, one of the plates. Like, Midgar is a city on a plate that's literally above a slum, right? The plan is to blow up the singular one and only one pillar that supports one of these plates and cause the plate and 12.5% of the infrastructure and population of the city of Midgar to smoosh down upon the slums of Sector 7, thereby wiping out this handful of dudes, this less than a baker's dozen of people, this munchkin box of people called Avalanche will be wiped out by the Shinra if they blow up a plate containing 12.5% of the city of Midgar and drop it on the slums and blow it up. Now, this seems like a bad plan, but there's also like false flag terrorism things, and they'll pin it on Avalanche, and they'll rally public support, and they'll build a city on a hill in the Promised Land or whatever. It's a whole thing. But the Shinra's plan is to drop the plate on Sector 7, and Cloud, Tifa, and Aerith decide that that's bad. So, they're about to run back when Don Corneo is, wait! Hey fuckers, why do you think I told you all of this? It's because you're fucked! Ha ha! and he pulls a lever behind his bed, which releases a trapdoor under his giant rug, which sends the three of them careening down a hole into the sewers. Which would be bad enough, like gravity and sewer fucking is involved here, but then, there's an enormous monster called Apps. And the enormous monster called Apps is there to kill them, except they kill it and they move on with their lives. And for no particular reason, the wordle could be train. It's not. But hey, Cloud, Tifa, and Aerith go to a train graveyard, which is basically just an abandoned train yard, but it also features ghosts for some reason. Cloud steals a bitchin' sword from one of the ghosts, because as you do. And then Cloud, Tifa, and Aerith reunite with Barrett and go up on the... Wait. At first, Tifa sends Aerith to go save Barrett's daughter, Marlene, from the bar. Did I mention there's a bar? There's a bar. Barrett has a daughter. It's a whole thing. Okay. So Aerith goes off to save the daughter. Cloud and Tifa climb the pillar. They meet Biggs, Wedge, and Jesse, all of whom have been murdered, killed, and dead. See, I told you didn't have to care about these people. They go up to the top of the pillar. They meet Barrett. Barrett is fighting Reno. He's not winning. Barrett, Cloud, and Tifa fight Reno. They do win, or at least they fight to a draw or something, because Reno's like, oh, time to blow up the bomb. And then Reno blows up the bomb and everybody dies, except there's a part where Barrett finds a random hook on a cable, which is attached to ... question mark. They never really answer that one. But Cloud, Tifa, and Barrett swing to safety and crumple in the ruins of the park where Cloud and Aerith hung out. But Biggs, Wedge, and Jesse totally dead. As far as Barrett knows, Marlene totally dead. Except, did I mention, on the way out, just before the pillar blew up, Tseng, who is one of the Turks with just... Man, even when you're not sick, the absolute worst name to fucking pronounce. So Tseng reveals that he's kidnapped Aerith, and also he likes to slap Aerith because he's an asshole. He's a Turk. He's one of the Turks. Have we realized that the Turks are assholes yet? The Turks are assholes yet. Okay. So Tseng has kidnapped Aerith, and he's flying her off to the Shinra building or whatever. And also, Sector 7 has been destroyed. Biggs, Wedge, and Jesse are dead. I told you don't have to care about these people because this is not the remake. This is the original. And the plan is we're going to go off to the Shinra building. And we do. We go off to the Shinra building. We climb 70 floors. We have some funny dialogue. And then we murder a whole bunch of fuckers. I'm really trying to step on the gas here, folks. We got so much more video game to get through. So we go to the Shinra building. It's 70 stories tall. We climb 61 of them. We climb 59 of them. And then we steal key cards. And then there's a puzzle. And then there's a thing. And then there's a map. And then there's a mayor named Domino. Did I mention that Midgar is a city and has a mayor, but the mayor really doesn't fucking matter? Yeah, Midgar is a city and has a mayor, but the mayor really doesn't fucking matter. And then we go up to the 70th floor, and then there's President Shinra, and then oh shit, Sephiroth. Pause. Sephiroth, it turns out, is this big, amazing, important dude who Cloud fucking worships or whatever. Also, everybody knows who he is. They think he died 5 years ago. Turns out he's back. Also, there's a trail of blood. There's a trail of blood from the prison cells. Did I mention that there's a prison? Hold on. Did I mention that there's a biological experiment? We should probably... I stepped on the gas a little too hard. So there's this biological experiment conducted by Shinra's head of science named Hojo. And the first thing they find is a limbless, headless torso in a vat. Basically, they find this limbless, headless torso in a vat, and Cloud freaks out about it because it turns out that this limbless, headless torso in a vat is Jenova, Sephiroth's mom. And if those words don't mean anything to you, Jenova is the leader and also race of people who wiped out the Cetra. Sephiroth is the big bad of the video game, and mom is the word typically given to the female birther and caregiver of a child. Generally speaking, there was a lot of generalization in that sentence. Anyway, so Jenova, Sephiroth's mom, is also a limbless, headless torso in a vat, and Cloud sees this and freaks the fuck out. And then he sees that Hojo, who is Shinra's head of science, has developed a fucking brilliant plan, because it turns out there's like centuries worth of research that they could do on Aerith, but the lifespan of a Cetra is like not centuries. So Hojo's plan, fucking brilliant plan, is that he's going to mate her with a talking dog. Yep, that's the plan. So the plan is that he's going to mate Aerith with a talking dog and then study their offspring for generations. Brilliant plan. Turns out Aerith not on board with this. Turns out talking dog not on board with this. The talking dog the talking dog has a name which he will not tell us, and he tells us that he was given the scientific, he was categorized in the experiments of Hojo, the scientist who tortured him. His categorization was Red 13. This designation means nothing to him other than the fact that it is what the person who imprisoned and tortured him referred to him as. Not even called him, because he wasn't talking to a person or anything. He was just referring to a specimen in a scientific experiment. Totally well, can you dehumanize a talking dog? An ethical question that Final Fantasy VII does not raise. It's too busy justifying eco-terrorism. So anyway, Red 13, which is what we're going to call him for the rest of the playthrough, because obviously, Red 13 and Aerith not on board with this plan. So we fight a giant monster and we kill it and we win and we're running away. Except, Trail of Blood. Oh, we get caught, we get imprisoned, there's a Trail of Blood. We get busted out of prison, we don't know how, Trail of Blood. Turns out the Trail of Blood goes up to the 70th floor, turns out President Shinra is dead and there's a sword in his back. Oh shit, Sephiroth's alive, and also he's murdered the president of the Shinra. All hail the president of the Shinra, Rufus Shinra, son of President Shinra, now the president of the Shinra. He and Cloud stare at each other while Barret, Tifa, and Aerith and Red 13 run the fuck away. Tifa goes off to be like, oh, I have to rescue Cloud. So there's this forced mandatory battle where you have Barret, Red 13, and Aerith in a situation where only one character is allowed to attack. It's fun. Man, the first time you do that fight, you fucking die. And then you set up your materia right. And then the second time you do that fight, you fucking die, because it's a hard fight even if you've accounted for it. Hold on, I have to sneeze again. Cloud and Rufus Shinra have a fight, and once again they fight to a draw, and Rufus escapes on a helicopter. The dick. And then we all reunite with everybody and try to escape the Shinra building. And then there's a very cool track that goes, except it goes like that over and over and over again, and I won't bother doing it. So, Cloud steals a motorcycle. Barret, Tifa, I'm just calling them Barris, that's bad. Barret, Tifa, and Aerith steal a three-wheeled truck. Everybody except Cloud gets in the three-wheeled truck, and they literally drive out of the Shinra building onto a highway in one of the cooler cutscenes in the video game. There's a mini game where Cloud slashes dudes on bikes with swords, and then they fight a giant roller boss who attacks them from behind. But if you set up your party right, it's not a big deal. And then, oh shit, it turns out that we have to leave the city of Midgar. Let's really step on the fucking gas here, people. So we go to Calm, which is a town next to Midgar, and we have an enormous fucking flashback, which is in contention for the worst part of the video game, just because it's immediately following this high-intensity moment, and then the plot is like, wait! You need context! So we learn all about Cloud and Sephiroth's backstory. Turns out Cloud used to be a soldier for the Shinra. He and Sephiroth went to Nibelheim, which is Cloud's hometown, and shit went real bad. Sephiroth learned that he's a descendant of Genova and the product of a scientific experiment by Hojo. Hojo's an asshole. Sephiroth goes nuts. Sephiroth burns the town down, slashes Tifa across the chest. It's real fucking bad. There's your context. So after we leave Calm, we go to a chocobo farm, we get a chocobo, we use a chocobo to cross a marsh. If we don't use a chocobo to cross the marsh, we get eaten by an enormous fuck-off snake. So we should probably use a chocobo to cross the marsh. We use a chocobo to cross the marsh. On the ass end of the marsh, we find the corpse of an enormous fuck-off snake impaled on a tree because Sephiroth? Dude's like dude-shaped, but apparently he can also impale corpses of enormous fuck-off snakes on giant trees. That's bad. Next, we go into the mines. They're purple. It's cool. We go through the mines. We meet Elena. She's the newest Turk. She's dumb. She reveals that Sephiroth was last seen heading for Junon. Thanks, Elena. Junon is like a tiny little baby Midgar in that there's rich, fancy people up top and then shithead poor fuckers living in the slums, except it's small. It's like 2 screens of map, so you don't have to worry about it that much. Also, on the way, we pointedly ignore a military installation with a bird statue. It looks dumb and boring. And then we go into the forest and we get assaulted by a ninja chick, but the ninja chick is pretty hot. So we recruit the ninja chick. It turns out her name is Yuffie because, again, it's 1997. We're 10 years old and playing this on a Sony PlayStation. So Yuffie's really into materia. She joins the party if you do her thing right because you read about it on the internet. Yuffie is totally optional, but this is a narrative of the way it was played by a 10-year-old in 1997 as much as we can remember. So Yuffie really cares about materia. Yuffie joins the party. It's cool. We go to Junon. We meet a girl. She has a dolphin. There's a snake monster. It comes and fights us. It almost kills the girl. There's a terrible CPR mini game. We're good at the terrible CPR mini game eventually. We save the girl's life. We get another summon materia. Don't worry what those words mean. We're going too fast. We use the dolphin to jump over the lightning onto a pole, and then we climb up and we see an enormous fuck-off airship, which is really cool. And then we run into Junon and we're in a military parade and we do a da-da-da-da-da-da-da about stuff. It's very cool. We do a little twirly pose. We get another better sword, which is great because now we're going on a boat. And we're going on a boat and everybody's in disguise, mostly as sailors. Barrett has a cool little sailor suit outfit that makes him look like a marshmallow. He sees Rufus and Heidegger. Heidegger's the head of Shinra's military. He doesn't matter. We'll see him again in 30 hours. Barrett gets all mad and then there's an alarm and they're like, oh no, did we get caught on the boat? But it turns out it was Sephiroth again, and he leaves a little hunk of Genova for us to fight, which is a shithead move of him. But we kill the little hunk of Genova, and then we go off, and we're in Costa del Sol, which is this lovely little beach resort town, and we kick a soccer ball at Red 13, because we're just so fucking mean to Red 13 in this video game. And then we go through a mountain, and then it turns out we're in Corel, and Corel is Barrett's hometown, and we get Barrett backstory. Turns out Barrett used to work in the mines with this guy named Dine. Simple, easy, nice to remember. And they dug coal and shit, and it was fine and good or whatever, and nobody cared about climate change at this point. But then the Shinra came around and were like, oh, you should use fancy Mako power. And Barrett's like, but coal. And the Shinra's like, but fancy Mako power. And the townspeople of Corel are like, but coal. And the Shinra are like, fancy Mako power. And eventually, Barrett convinces Dine, yeah, okay, let's do fancy Mako power. Psych. Turns out the Shinra are fuckers. Barrett had not previously known that the Shinra were fuckers. It turns out the Shinra are fuckers. This explains how Barrett, enormous dark-skinned gentleman, is father to Marlene, tiny little pale-skinned girl. She's actually Dine's kid, but Barrett raised her because Barrett got Dine killed. It's bad. Turns out, so having learned all about Barrett's emotional trauma and seen him slink off away to be alone with his thoughts, the party naturally goes to Disney World. As you do. It turns out that Disney World is built in like a palace in the sky that's above. Man, lots of things in this thing are about rich people being above poor people. Have we noticed this? I think we're noticing a theme here. So we go to the Gold Saucer, which is basically Disney World, and we meet Kate Sith. Oh, fucking Kate Sith. Kate Sith is a remote-controlled cat piloting a giant stuffed bear, basically. Where were we in the plot of Final Fantasy VII? Disney World, Kate Sith. Yeah, okay. We met Kate Sith at Disney World. Kate Sith is a remote-controlled cat piloting a giant teddy bear, basically. So, Kate Sith, the remote-controlled cat piloting a giant teddy bear, decides that he's part of our party now, for reasons. And then, it turns out that there's been gun murders, like, all over the place at Disney World, which is bad. Barrett, previously established as a dude with a gun on his arm, is the main suspect, particularly after one of the dying gun murder victims says that he was gun murdered by a man with a gun on his arm. So while the initial thought upon seeing a group of people who have been murdered is that Sephiroth did it, it suddenly becomes much more likely that Barrett did it, which is bad because we like Barrett. Also, we know Barrett, and for reasons that don't quite make sense, decide to run away from the cops. Now, granted, the cops work for the dude who owns the Gold Saucer, who may or may not work for the Shinra, but it also turns out that in addition to having Disney World, he owns a prison. So he and his cops kind of corner us and send us to jail. Jail, essentially, is a big fenced-in yard in the desert. And by fence, I mean no fence, because desert. The idea is, listen, here's a little shelter of safety, an oasis of livability in the middle of the fucking desert. You have two choices. One, stay here, play by the rules, and maybe eventually we'll let you out. Two, go off in the desert and fucking die. As prisons go, it's fairly effective. We meet up with Barrett, who has chosen option one. He insists that he did not do the gun murder, despite, the eyewitness account of the dude with a gun on his arm. Turns out that Dine did not die in the moment that we thought he did. Barrett thought he killed himself after he got a gun grafted onto his arm. Dun dun dun. So we go off in the desert, and rather than fucking die, we find fucking Dine. And hey, if you, the player, have not vibed with Barrett as a character, if you, the player, did not at some point take Barrett along for fun adventures, you, the player, are fucked. Because now you have a mandatory one-on-one Dine v. Barrett battle. And this mandatory one-on-one Dine v. Barrett battle has all of the rest of your friends just sitting around off to the side. Well, Barrett goes one-on-one with Dine. And as I previously stated, you have to win because it is mandatory. So after several attempts and getting lucky and poison scumming, Barrett wins. And Dine is like, aw shit, this dude's gonna kill me. I might as well have a dramatic death. So Dine chucks a necklace at Barrett and then dives into a crevasse to his fucking death. It should be noted, however, that the last time the narrative saw Dine was when he was plummeting down a crevasse to his being apparently fine. Like, the reason Dine got the gun grafted onto his arm is because he and Barrett got shot through the hands while they were hanging off of a cliff. That's why Dine needed the gun on his arm. He fell off that cliff into a crevasse and was totally fine. But this time, he jumps into a crevasse and is therefore obviously dead. Okay, fine. So Barrett takes the necklace that Dine gave him back to Dio, the guy who's in charge of the Gold Saucer. Actually, there's some intermediary whose name I completely forget. Sanchez. Coates. I was going to say Sanchez. I think he's a different guy. So Barrett takes Dine's necklace back to Coates and is like, hey, we want out. And Coates is like, oh, you, the person in prison for murder, and you, the half dozen people, well, the handful of people, talking dog, and remote-controlled cat piloting a giant teddy bear, collectively all of whom are in prison for aiding and abetting the escape of this person who is in prison for murder. Y'all must have murdered Dine. Well, that's a good reason for you to get out of here, I guess. However, you have to win a chocobo race. Because this is a good judiciary system. This is logical. This is reasonable. This is how justice is done. The best bird racers can't be killers. Or at least they're good enough bird racers that it's worth letting them kill every once in a while. Also, Cloud has to do it because reasons. So Cloud wins a bird race, and everybody's free. And in addition to being free, Dio, in order to apologize, presents the party with a brand new car! Your new car is super awesome for the 9 moments it's going to be relevant to the plot, in that it can go over deserts and rivers, and that's it. There are only 2 geographic features that this car cares about. They are deserts and rivers, and the car can do both of those. So you use the car to exit the desert, and then you doodly boop around, and you may or may not go to the town of Gongaga, which is actually very important to the narrative, but the game doesn't care about. Weird. So you go to the town of Gongaga, and there's a nuclear reactor there, and you get a materia, and you see Scarlet, who's another vaguely important lady to the Shinra who we'll see in 3 hours, but is also going to get this sound drop. And then she yells at some people and laughs at some stuff, and off she goes. And then you hear some things about a weird black-haired guy who Cloud may or may not have used to know. It was a whole thing. Don't worry about it. And then you cross another river, and you go into a canyon, and your brand new car fucking dies. So you've had your car for about 9 minutes, really. Like, if you stop in Gongaga... Oh, there's a fight with the Turks. I guess there's a fight with the Turks in Gongaga. You fight them to a draw. It's fine. So there's a fight with the Turks, and then you get a summon, and then you cross over the river. Yeah, you've had your new car for maybe 20 minutes. Like, obviously, if you're intentionally taking forever, you can make anything take forever. But if you're just, like, doing things, but also leisurely playing through the video game, yeah, you've had your brand new car for about 20 minutes, so it means it's time for your brand new car to fucking die. Your brand new car happens to fucking die directly outside of Red 13's hometown. Point of order, it should be noted, again, continuing the running theme of the characters in this video game treating Red 13 like crap. The only reason you stop at Red 13's hometown is because your car broke down and you need it fixed. So your car breaks down and you stop at Red 13's hometown, and Red 13's hometown is a cliffside tribal village full of people who are deeply in touch with the earth and nature and the spirits and the stars or whatever, and give all of their life to this pseudo-religious belief. And also there's a mechanic here. Thankfully, there's a mechanic here. So the mechanic who goes and fixes your car, and you need to goof around for a while. So in order to kill some time, specifically in order to kill some time, not because you care about this character or anything, but in order to kill some time, you go and meet Red 13's grandfather, who is a floaty green ball man. Well, he's a man, but he's floaty on a green ball instead of having legs, which is weird, but they never talk about it. Grandfather's name is Bugenhagen. He tells you about the cosmos and how Mako is actually very important, and it turns out that it's bad that the Shinra are doing this, which, I mean, is what Barrett said. You remember how we started the game off by doing an eco-terrorism? Yeah. Where was I? Oh, right, grandfather. So Bugenhagen tells the player that it turns out Barrett was right about the whole eco-terrorism thing. You need to stop the Shinra lest they yank the life force out of the planet or whatever. Also, ghosts. More specifically, turns out there's this legend about a great protector who wandered into a cave and fought off an invading army and got turned into a statue. And also, turns out Red 13 hates his dad because one day his dad just kind of fucking left. And Red 13 never connected these dots, but thankfully, Bugenhagen sends us into a cave to fight off a whole bunch of fuckers. There's a lot of fuckers in this cave, including a really fucking hard boss fight, but eventually you win. And it turns out that the dude who fucked off and the dude who fucked off and saved the village, same dude. Red 13's dad is the statue. His statue dad cries tears of happy to see his son again. Red 13 gets a new weapon, and off we go. We leave with our car fixed and go north to Nibelheim? Question mark? You may recall that earlier in the plot, it was burned down by Sephiroth in a fit of anger. Well, it's back now. Also, it's always been here. The people are weird. The people don't necessarily believe Cloud when he says, "Hi, I'm from here. This place burned to cinders 5 years ago. The fuck is going on?" Also, if Tifa is present, she says something to the effect of, "Hi, I'm from here. This place burned to cinders 5 years ago. The fuck is going on?" Turns out, the people of Nibelheim are actually Shinra workers who, for reasons that I don't quite remember right now, are covering up the fact that Nibelheim was burned to cinders 5 years ago by Sephiroth by rebuilding Nibelheim and then living as if nothing had gone wrong, just in case anyone wanders by. So, that's a thing you can do. Also, you go into the big fancy house where Cloud and Sephiroth were staying when they were here, and you meet a dude in a box. This dude who is in the box was canonically here 5 years ago. He just didn't feel like leaving his box. He's in the box for punishment reasons or something. I don't know. Anyway, his name is Vince and he has a cape. He's cool. He turns into a monster sometimes. It's actually the worst limit break because you can't control him, but he's still cool. He's good. He has a gun, and as with all RPG users who have guns, is the worst fucking fighter because guns in RPGs have to be terrible or else they'd be broken. But he's still cool. He's so damn cool. He got his own video game, even though he's optional and mechanically useless, and his story's his story's cool, so he got his own video game. He was the first one to get his own video game from this video game. So we meet Vince, he's in a box, and we say, "Hey, we want to fuck over Sephiroth and Hojo," and he's like, "Hojo? I want to fuck over Hojo." Because it turns out Hojo stole his girlfriend or something. Hojo did terrible experiments on his girlfriend or something? I think Hojo did terrible experiments on his girlfriend or something. And Vince let it happen. So, Vince feels complicit. He was in a box for punishment reasons. Now he's kind of adopted the whole vampire aesthetic. This is Vince. Vince is on the team now. So we go, and I think we confront Sephiroth, and he yells at us. I don't really remember. Yeah, I don't remember. I think there's a... Is there a yell? No, I don't think there's a yell at Sephiroth here. Also, there's a safe, and there's a weird puzzle to get to the safe, and if you break into the safe, congratulations, fucko, you've got a horribly difficult boss fight. Oh, I hate the Lost Number fight so fucking much. But... you can do a horribly difficult boss fight, and then you go from Nibelheim to Mount Nibel, which is where the reactor is, and you go to the reactor, and there's plot, and then you just kind of vaguely continue heading north, because I think people said Sephiroth was heading north, so you just kind of vaguely continue heading north, and you go through the forest, and then you come to Rocket Town, which is a town with a rocket in it. How about that? Turns out that several years ago, the Shinra were planning to send a man. Where were they planning to put this man? I don't know. Help me, Stream Deck.
In space.
Interesting. So they were planning to put this man
In space.
but then they didn't, because in order to put this man
In space.
the man would have had to light his engine, which at the time would have burnt his assistant to a crisp because she was down there desperately trying to fix the engine because it was broken. There was very strict timing, so he aborted the mission at the last possible moment, and the Shinra was like, well, fuck this! Let's go do our Golden City on a Hill project or whatever, instead of going to send a man.
In space.
So rather than putting a man...
In space.
they just kind of left the rocket there, and it slowly kind of over until it kind of leading tower to piece it itself, basically as a sword of Damocles over the town, if we're being honest with ourselves. Also, the dude and the assistant live together now for reasons, and the dude is an asshole to the assistant. He's like, hey, remember that one time I saved your life? Well, it ruined mine. Fuck you. Make me tea. The dude is an asshole. But he's loud, hates the Shinra, has a stick, and is on the team now. Also, he has a plane, and we can use the plane to chase down Sephiroth. Speaking of which, the Shinra are here. They want to use this dude's plane to chase down Sephiroth. And he's like, fuck you, I hate you people. And they're like, but we have guns. And he's like, I see your point. However, sticks! And him and his stick and Cloud and his sword and us and our weapons fight Palmer, who does not fucking matter. He's just a walking fat joke. So we fight Palmer, and then we bonk him with a propeller, and he doesn't die. He just runs and gets hit by a truck and also doesn't die. I don't think we see him. I think we see him again, but he never matters. Anyway, turns out that as we're flying away on our beautiful plane, the Shinra managed to get exactly one shot into the wing of this plane, and now the plane is a boat. Don't ask. So instead of being a plane that can take us anywhere, the plane is a boat, which can take us very specifically in shallow water, so we can go along coastlines and shit, which means we can go to Wutai. Wutai is Japan's interpretation of Japan. Wutai is Japan's little brother complex coming out, basically. It's this great city, powerful town that lost a war to Midgar and is now fucked. And everyone there is sad, but they won't talk about it because, great powerful city of Wutai, even though they're actually tiny nothing doing burg that's home to exactly 2 side quests, and that's it. One of these side quests has Yuffie steal all of your materia. It's a huge pain in the ass. Yuffie steals all of your materia, you have to run around, you eventually chase her down to Wutai, where it turns out she's been kidnapped by Don Corneo. Hey, you remember him? Yeah, he's still at it with his whole kidnap ladies make 'em my girls thing, and he's somehow kidnapped Yuffie and Elena of the Turks, and we have to chase him to the side of a mountain and fight a boss without any of our materia, which is a pain in the ass. But then we kill the boss, and then we yeet Don Corneo off the side of a mountain, and we rescue Yuffie and Elena, and the Turks are like, I guess we won't fight you this time, thank you for the help. And they fuck off, and Yuffie gives us our materia back, and it's in awful places, and we have to spend 20 minutes fixing it, and it's a whole thing. And then, if you want, you can do the second side quest in Wutai, which is Yuffie climbs a tower and fights things. Yuffie's dad is here. He's in charge of Wutai, and he wants to restore the honor, but he's actually just a sad dying old man, and Yuffie's all, stop being a sad dying old man and actually restore the honor of our fucking town, damn it! And he eventually decides that she's right after she defeats him in pitched combat, which is what happens in Wutai. So we do the 2 side quests in Wutai. We never do these at this point in the video game, but we can now erase Wutai from the narrative. It's fine. And then return to find Sephiroth, who it turns out is after the Temple of the Ancients, whatever that is. It turns out that the Temple of the Ancients is a big-ass fucking ziggurat way down at the bottom of the map. It turns out there's a big-ass fucking ziggurat way down at the bottom of the map. Who knew? So we go to the big-ass fucking ziggurat way down at the bottom of the map, and we go through a horrible puzzle, and there are moving curly rock things, and it turns out that Sephiroth is after the black materia. And the black materia is a thing that he can use to call down Meteor, which is, a meteor, which will fucking annihilate everything for reasons. The plan, such as it is that he's going to cast a big old rock to smush into the planet, thereby creating an enormous wound in the planet, which the planet is a living entity. We learned this in Cosmo Canyon. Cosmo Canyon is Red 13's hometown. Red 13's grandpa Bugenhagen told us all of this. So the plan is to smush a big old rock into the planet. The planet, which is a living entity, will then direct all of its energy into this wound so as to heal the planet and keep the planet alive. However, at the center of that wound, siphoning all of this energy, will be Sephiroth. So the plan is that Sephiroth siphons all of the planet energy and becomes God or whatever. It doesn't sound like a good plan, but it's a video game. So Sephiroth wants to use the black materia to smush the rock into the planet. The only question is, how do we get the black materia? Turns out, the Temple of the Ancients is the black materia. Okay. A smart and reasonable thing to do at this point would be to leave. Would be to say, actually, let's not. Let's exit this place. No one is going to use this building as a materia, because a materia is like a little rock that does magic. No, if we do nothing, then we can just leave. But no, the party has decided that they must have the black materia, so that Sephiroth cannot have the black materia. And so, it turns out that the only way to turn the building into the black materia is to solve an increasingly complicated series of puzzles inside the building that causes the building to increasingly shrink in size until it is itself the size of a little materia. But if you do that, then you, inside the building, will be, the size of a speck of dust at this point, and therefore incapable of using the black materia. It's an ingenious plan, unless one of your team members is, say, a remote-controlled cat piloting a giant teddy bear. Because it turns out that a remote-controlled cat piloting a giant teddy bear can just do things. Also, there's a horrible fight against a demon wall. It's a real pain in the ass. Thing is super duper duper resistant to magic, so you should really use physical attacks on it, but you have to have Aerith in your party, and she fucking sucks at physical attacks. It sucks. Anyway. So Cait Sith sacrifices himself. Oh, also, by the way, Cait Sith decides that it would be a good idea to have a tearful farewell, because after all, Cait Sith is going to sacrifice himself in order to solve all of these puzzles to shrink the Temple of the Ancients down to the size of a materia, except turns out there are two Cait Siths, because as previously stated, Cait Sith is just a remote-controlled cat piloting a giant teddy bear. So there's a second Cait Sith who shows up 9 seconds after the first Cait Sith is finished shrinking the building down to the size of a materia, thereby taking away all of the emotional weight of the sacrifice that Cait Sith made and making it feel as though we've wasted all of our time. Also, Cait Sith shows up in the middle of Cloud having a fucking meltdown and handing the black materia to Sephiroth. Yeah, Cloud has a fucking meltdown and hands the black materia to Sephiroth. And then he freaks out and passes out because he's like, oh shit, what did I do? While he passes out and is like, oh shit, what did I do? Cloud has a vision / dream / whatever of Aerith saying, hey, don't worry about it. I'll take care of everything. You just stay here in Gongaga and heal. By the way, I hope you didn't have anything you care about equipped to me because reasons. Bye. So, in the dream, Aerith tells Cloud that she's going north to the City of the Ancients, and then Cloud wakes up in Gongaga, which, if you didn't go to Gongaga earlier, welcome to Gongaga. It's important. So Cloud wakes up in Gongaga. Barret yells at him because at this point it is literally all Cloud's fault that Sephiroth has the black materia, but, we're in this mess, we may as well get out of it, and the way to get out of it is to get to the City of the Ancients, and you get to the City of the Ancients by going through Bone Village. And Bone Village, despite its name, hold on, is all about archaeology. Pfft, nonsense. So you set off some dynamite and you find a key and you go to the City of the Ancients and you learn some more stuff about Jenova, and there's a waterfall and there's a sword and there's a tent and there's a safe space and blah, 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 blah. And Sephiroth stabs Aerith with the sword. Yeah. So you go down to the bottom of the thing and you find Aerith and she's all like praying about shit. And then up from the sky comes, oh no! There's a big old man with silver hair and he impales Aerith with the sword and she fucking dies. And then, as Aerith fucking dies and Aerith's theme plays and everyone's all sad about stuff, Sephiroth sicks Jenova on us. Again. So we have to fight Jenova. This Jenova does water stuff, and also earlier you were given a water ring, so if you thought to equip that, congratulations, you're invulnerable. If you didn't think to do that, this is a difficult fight, actually. So you fight Jenova, and Aerith's music is playing, and everyone's sad, and then Cloud does a water funeral, and interestingly, Cloud wades out to about waist deep in this pool that's in front of the temple at the heart of the City of the Ancients. He wades out to about waist deep in this pool, lays Aerith's body in the pool, casts her away a little bit, and then she immediately sinks like a fucking rock to the bottom of the goddamn ocean, because apparently there was a cliff there or something. I don't know. She goes real deep. Cloud, again, had waded out to about waist deep. He had just kind of walked carrying a corpse and then schlepped it off. Okay. So, by the way, Cloud, having sufficiently mourned Aerith's Cloud, having sufficiently mourned Aerith, decides, oh, we should continue going after Sephiroth because that's gone so well for us to this point. But now I am filled with renewed vigor and purpose. End of Disc 1. Hi. Hello. You're a cat. Okay. So this is the end of Disc 1 of this 3-disc video game. However, you're also like 60% of the way through the plot. Also, I don't remember Discs 2 and 3 very well. So, we're going after Sephiroth, who's at a crater at the center of the planet, at the North Pole, rather. Sephiroth's at the North Pole. We have to get there through Icicle Inn, which is a tiny little town where we can learn more backstory about the lady who just died. There's a snowboarding minigame. We snowboard into a glacier. There's a glacier minigame. It sucks. Oh, the glacier minigame is just a huge pain in the ass. But we climb a glacier and we get to the crater at the North Pole. And the crater at the North Pole is full of shitheads and fuckers and Sephiroth. By the way, this seems like a good point to mention the entire running reunion plot. Like, way back in Midgar, we started hearing about this thing called a reunion, like capital R reunion. And we didn't really know much about it, and Hojo had some ideas as to what it was, and we saw some dudes in black cloaks with tattoos on their hand or whatever. Nora, you have been fed. You need to shut up. Thank you. So we saw some dudes in black cloaks with tattoos on their hand, and was a guy in a pipe who are sick, and it's a whole thing. But we've never really thought much about it. Oh, turns out the capital R reunion is the idea that anyone who has any Genova cells in them, whatever, will eventually want to come together at one singular place so as to be reunited with Sephiroth, the creation of Genova. Also, turns out Cloud has Genova cells in him, so this whole massive obsessive compulsion thing he's had going was literally an obsessive compulsion because of the Genova cells and the reunion theory, and it turns out Hojo was right. So everyone with Genova cells is there, including Cloud, and they all want to go see Sephiroth. Cloud ostensibly to murder kill him, but, you know, Cloud also gave Sephiroth the black materia, so nobody can trust Cloud right now. But the Shinra are there, and there's a whole thing, and we go back and forth about whether or not we can give Sephiroth the black materia. We somehow reclaim the black materia. I'm not quite sure how that happens. We basically reclaim the black materia so that in a few minutes, Cloud can give Sephiroth the black materia again. But it turns out that every time we've seen Sephiroth up till this point in the game, we have not seen the true Sephiroth. We have merely seen a projection. Sephiroth has been like possessing people or casting visions of his body out to the world to do stuff or something, because the true Sephiroth is just here in Crystal at the North Pole. And Cloud hands the true Sephiroth the black materia and freaks out, and everybody's sad and mad about stuff. So the true Sephiroth begins casting the spell or whatever that'll slam Meteor into the planet to fucking wipe out everybody, but also make Sephiroth God or whatever. And everybody's like, shit, we gotta get out of here. Let's go with the Shinra, because the alternative is we fucking die in a landslide or whatever. It turns out that there are these ancient beings that just live in the planet like dormant Zords. The planet basically has dormant Megazords at its beck and call. And these things are called Weapon. There are like 4 of them, 2 of which are optional and therefore don't get cutscenes. So it turns out that the planet has these things called Weapon, which it calls upon only when the planet is fucked. Also, the planet is calling upon Weapon, so the planet knows that the planet is fucked. One of these weapons is heading for Midgar, which is, to be fair, the thing that is most fucking over the planet in this very moment, but also it's home to like 70% of the population of the world or whatever, so we should probably stop it. So we stop it. Cool. And then we're chasing down leads to get to Sephiroth, and somehow we wind up in this little town called Midil. I forget how we wind up in this little town called Midil. Oh, right, Cloud. Cloud fell into the life stream or whatever. It's a whole thing. Yeah, the life stream is this weird green soupy stuff that just lives in the planet and connects all souls or whatever. It's kind of important. Cloud falls into that, which seems like a bad thing. No, he falls into that in Midil. How does Cloud wind up in Midil? I don't remember, but we wind up in Midil. And then Tifa decides to stay with Cloud, and Sid, who's the asshole with the stick and the rocket, you remember him? Sid, the asshole with the stick and the rocket, is named leader of the party for reasons. Turns out that the Shinra have a plan to fuck over Sephiroth, because Sephiroth, now that he's casting his spell, has created like this impenetrable dome above the North Pole. The Shinra's plan is to use a big, enormous fucking cannon and these things called huge materia, capital H, capital M, huge materia. The huge materia is going to be used by the Shinra to fuck over Sephiroth and destroy his impervious dome and then go kill him or whatever. I think that's the plan. They might have had a different reason for it, but listen, the Shinra, despite having saved our asses a moment ago, are still bad. Because, well, you know how they saved our asses a few minutes ago? They want to blame us for the whole planet about to die because of meteor thing, so they're going to have a public execution via gas chamber. Like, it's not even like a shooting or anything. No, there's just a gas chamber with a camera in it. And the plan is to send Tifa into a gas chamber and gas her to death. It's not a great plan, but, you know. Fortunately, she rescues herself, and then Barrett helps assist in the rescuing of her. Also, there's a slap fight on the side of a cannon, which is a thing that happens in video games. So you have a slap fight with Tifa and Scarlet, and then you jump off the side of a cannon, and you're caught by an airplane, and Sid's flying the plane, and it's a whole thing. And Sid's the leader of the party, and we have to get the huge materia, and we also have to go find Cloud, and Cloud's in Mideel, and Tifa decides to stay with Cloud, and then we have to fight Weapon a bunch of times, and then we have to go get some huge materia, and some of them are in Corel, and some of them are in Gongaga, and some of them are very quite literally
In space.
because the Shinra decided to launch the rocket and Sid gets to ride in the rocket, and you literally go to a place that is
In space.
and you reclaim the huge materia, and you have the worst part of the video game. The worst part of the video game is an hour-and-a-half long extended cutscene that takes place entirely inside Cloud's brain in the live stream, wherein we piece out, while playing as Tifa, we piece together the fact that Cloud was not actually in Nibelheim 5 years ago. Zack was. And Zack is the black-haired guy from Gongaga, who everybody in Gongaga knew and Cloud had never heard of, except it turns out that Cloud and Zack were best friends, and Zack saved Cloud from a whole thing. Also, even though Tifa doesn't think Cloud was there, it turns out Cloud was there, but rather than being Sephiroth's right-hand man, second in command, as Cloud had been fashioning himself as, Cloud was there as a generic helmeted mook. Cloud, the generic helmeted mook, was present and saw Tifa get slashed across the chest and carried Tifa to safety, but Tifa only saw Sephiroth and Zack and a bunch of generic helmeted mooks. It's a whole thing. Zack and Cloud escape the flaming ruins of Nibelheim, and they get to Midgar, and then Zack is killed, and Cloud takes Zack's sword and takes up the mantle of basically let's live Zack's life, and then he goes into Midgar and he saves Tifa, and the plot of the video game happens. Thankfully, this part takes like an hour and a half and fucking sucks, but now we're through it. Pay no attention to the fact that Goog recaps the plot of Final Fantasy VII has taken an hour and a half and fucking sucked. We're moving on. So Cloud, filled once again with renewed purpose and vigor for the second time in this game, is like, hey, let's go fucking kill Sephiroth. Is that end of disc 2? No. Still on disc 2, you have to go back to Midgar. You have to go back to Midgar because the Shinra's plan is to shoot a giant fuck-off cannon at the impervious dome at the North Pole and see what happens, hopefully making it pervious. And we want to stop that for reasons, and we go to Midgar and we fight the Turks, and we have an option of killing the Turks. This is the final time you're going to fight the Turks. You can, if you want to, kill the Turks. We choose not to kill the Turks. They're fine. They're cool. They wear suits. And, oh, also somewhere in there, Cloud and Tifa had a date. It doesn't matter. We go back to the Shinra building. We get Kate Sith's ultimate weapon. We something. The plot. I really don't remember Disc 2 of Final Fantasy VII. Yeah, eventually at some point the Shinra actually does manage to shoot the impervious dome at the North Pole with the laser thing, which is great, except it turns out that meteor's here in like a week. End of Disc 2. Disc 3 consists entirely of two things. 1, side quests. 2, the final dungeon. Side quests can be summed up as, do you want to do some chocobo racing? If you do enough of it, you get the most awesome summon in the game. Cool. Do you want to do a whole bunch of boss dungeons? If you do, you get Cloud's ultimate limit break. Cool. Do you want to do some random bullshit in a forest? Not really? Understandable. Oh, also at some point you had to do the Fort Condor minigame. That was one of the, capital H, capital M, huge materia things. You remember earlier in the game where we ignored a statue of a big old building with a statue of a bird on top of it? Yeah, that military installation is Fort Condor. It has a whole minigame. That minigame is like tactical turn-based combat. Not turn-based combat, but like tactical RTS combat in the middle of this JRPG. It's bad, but you can do it early in the game and get nothing of value, and then you have to do it later in the game in order to, advance the plot. So that's nice, I guess. Then you go to Fort Condor and you meet some things and you save the huge materia and you go into space and you end of Disc 2 and you do all the side quests and then you go down the North Cave, and the North Cave is a whole fuck off thing. There's a whole bunch of powerful dudes and things to get and experience points, and the game does a mean thing to you. The game gives you a thing, and the thing says, hey buddy, you can use this once and only once to create a save point where there otherwise was not one. You decide where. And then, having told the player that it has one and only one chance to create a save point from nothing, the game puts no save points between the entrance of North Cave and the point of no return, and leaves it as an exercise to the player where they want to drop that save point. Also, the game creates not one, not two, but 3 distinct false points of no return. There's a thing at the very beginning of the entrance to North Cave that, if you've never played this game before, feels like a point of no return. Deeper in North Cave, there's a point where you split the party that, if you've never played this game before, sure as hell feels like a point of no return. 10 seconds later, if you go in one of the 2 directions you can go after splitting the party, there is another point where you split the party, and that feels like a point of no return. None of these 3 points of potential no return is, in fact, the point of no return. Instead, way down at the bottom of North Cave, everybody meets up, everybody chats, everybody gives you the shit that they found having gone down their distinct paths, and this is the point of no return. This is the point where you should drop your save crystal. So you drop your save crystal and you go fuck off and do side quests, and then you come back and you go beyond the point of no return to the final fight with Genova, which is a difficult fight against a bunch of fuckers. The final fight with Sephiroth, which is... There were 2 final fights against Sephiroth. There were actually 3 final fights against Sephiroth. The first of which is somewhere between 1 and 3 parties. By the way, you have 8 party members and can have 3 people in a party. There is a potential for this game to just make you choose 3 parties. So one of these parties is going to have 2 things. You remember the final fight of Final Fantasy VI when we played that on stream? They basically recreated that, sort of. So you have 3 parties fight Bizarro Sephiroth, and then the first party, you don't get a chance to reset your party or anything. The first party has to fight Safer Sephiroth, who uses the theme music that played at the very beginning of this an hour and a half ago. And and you fight Bizarro Sephiroth, and he casts a spell called Supernova that literally causes the longest summon in the game to do 1,000,000 damage to you, and you might or might not die. It's fun. And then you fight him and you win, and then there's one last fight, which I think takes place entirely in Cloud's head, where Cloud uses his ultimate limit break, even if you never got it, on Sephiroth, which is cool. And then the game ends, basically. Like, Meteor's coming, but Eris, when she was dying, was casting a prayer using her holy materia or something, and the holy materia causes the life stream in the planet to repel the force of Meteor and scatter it to dust, but also maybe ? Destroys all of civilization, because after Meteor is destroyed, we cut to 400 years later, where possibly Red 13 and definitely descendants of Red 13 are running through the overgrown ruins of Midgar. And if you only play Final Fantasy VII and don't engage with any other Final Fantasy VII media, it is left as an open question to the player whether or not civilization just ended at the moment of Meteor's impact. It didn't, because there are sequel games and remakes and all of that to do, but that's the whole thing. And if it felt like, man, there was a lot of great, awesome stuff in the first disc of Final Fantasy VII, and then the second and third discs kind of petered out, but you kept playing them because you were invested, well, that's exactly how it felt to play Final Fantasy VII. It's an amazing video game for the first half of it, and then it just kind of peters out. And listen, there's some good stuff in Disc 2 and Disc 3. It's just not as memorable or good as Disc 1. This has been the _Goog recaps the plot of Final Fantasy VII. I promise these will never be this long again. I know the plot of FF7 better than I know most plots, I guess. I don't know. We should be shorter with this. I don't have an outro. Bye.
Where in the fuck am I supposed to go now? I feel like I need rockapella to sing that song for me. Where in the fuck am I supposed to go now? Tell me where the fuck I'm going, and I cannot come up with words, so I had better stop singing, for I embarrass myself. So I will.